What's up guys, welcome to an interesting tutorial. In today's video we'll draft a bodice pattern that is a bit different from our usual bodice pattern but derived from the basic bodice pattern. Okay, this one is modified to fit a pregnant lady, you know. Let me explain what I've marked here on this pattern. This is my shoulder line, which I slanted by 1 inch, as you know from our bodice pattern. Then this is my bust line. This is my under bust line. This is the actual waistline. If you're drafting a normal bodice pattern, your waistline should be on this point. But I've extended the waist to the lower waist. Now we have our lower waist measurements. This is a point below the navel, and that's where we want to place our half length. Now, because of this lower waist, it's going to affect our full length and our half length. If the full length of the dress is 60, for example, usually you should take out from your top to your waistline, but now we're going to take out from the top to the lower waist to be able to accommodate the bump, because we're using a stretchy fabric for the top half part of this dress. Okay, if that is understood, now let's go straight to our modifications. Now on my shoulder line, this is my armhole measurement, so just impute the armhole. I've measured that already. It's same formula as the normal armhole we always do. You know, we always go in by 0.75 for the front, and for the back we usually mark at the exact point. So this will be our front armhole and this one will be for the back, just at the exact line. Now what I did again was to extend my lines across the pattern. So instead of using one side of my pattern as I always do, I used both sides to draft the front bodies. Now the only thing we will be left with will be the back bodies, but we'll use the same pattern to cut both front and back bodies. So now we're going to impute our bust measurement. So our bust circumference is 36 inches. Now 36 divided by 4, which we usually do, is 9 inches. But since we're marking across the pattern and marking for both sides, we're going to apply 18 inches. So we're marking, we'll make sure our 9 inch is at the middle of the pattern, so we'll mark on that point and 18 on the right. Now for our under bust circumference is 34 inches. Now if you divide 34 inches by 4, you're going to have 8.5 inches. So you mark 8.5 on that point, then apply same 8.5 to your right. Now on our waist circumference is 38 inches. If you divide 38 by 4, is 9.5. So mark it here. Then also apply 9.5 to the right. Like I said, it's for a pregnant lady, so it's going to take a different shape from the normal bodice, you know. Then for the lower part of the waist, we measured same 38 inches. It's actually 39, so we'll just measure 9.75, apply that on the bottom. They'll apply same 9.75 to the right. So this is what our pattern will look like. So now just connect these points up. Now we'll create our neckline. For the neckline, we're going to use the depth of 3 inches and the width of 4.5. So our width is 4.5 and our depth is 3 inches. This is because if you look at this dress, it's a canoe. The neck is canoe, it's not like a normal round, a usual round neck. Okay, so that's why we're using that. Now I've created the neckline. So next we'll create the yoke. For our yoke, you can see it's asymmetric. It's not like it flows through. It's not same on the right and left. So to create this neckline, what we need to do is to measure from our shoulder line downwards. We're going to mark 5 inches on the right. Then on the left, we're going to mark 8 inches. So that's 8 on the right and 5 on the left. Then we'll curve this to create our yoke. Then from the midpoint, we'll measure our bust span. The bust span is 8 inches for this client. So we're using 4 inches on both sides. Remember, we're making this dress with a stretchy fabric, so we don't need a dart. I'm just creating this bust span just to guide us for this pattern, but we don't really need it. So it's 5 inches on the right and 8 on the left. So this bodice is actually done now. We'll just fold that. Then we cut out our pattern. You can add seam allowance, maybe 1 inch or half, because it's a stretchy fabric. Then add your seam allowance at the bottom, ½ inch. You can also leave this out and add your allowance when cutting on fabric. So because we're using this same pattern for our back body, we measure our 1 inch for the back neckline. So first we'll use this pattern to cut the back bodies. Then we'll modify to cut our front bodies. Alright, that's the back bodies. I've cut it out. Now we'll modify, after cutting out these back bodies, we'll now modify the pattern to cut our front bodies. So while cutting the back bodies, I added 1 inch for my zipper allowance on the side. Now we'll modify this pattern to cut the front bodies. This is for our front bodies. So that's the front pattern. Add your ½ inch all round and your 1 inch seam allowance on the side, then ½ inch at the bottom for your front. Then you cut the yoke as well. For the yoke, you need ½ inch seam allowance all round. So for the sleeve, I used my basic sleeve pattern. The link to the video on the basic sleeve pattern will be in the description, so you can refer to that if you don't know how to draw the basic sleeve pattern. So that's what it is. So for our cape, is a 360 degrees flare. So you fold your pattern paper into 4, just like I'm doing here. Then from the midpoint, you apply your armhole circumference, which is 18 inches. So you could just curve it this way to create out your armhole circumference of 9 inches. Apply it on that point. Derive your radius, then you measure 14 inches. Okay, so mark 14 inches round. Once this is done, you cut your pattern. Now I've cut that pattern on fabric, and I actually cut 2 of it. I used velvet and satin to cut each of them. The satin will act as the lining for our velvet, just to make it a bit thick. That's why I did that. But next we'll cut our 6 panel pattern on our lace fabric. instead of using the 7-inch extension we added on our pattern, I had to make it up to 20 inches. Okay, so we have a total of 31 inches on the bottom because I want a tail at the back, but this tail can be longer, you know. I cut 2 pieces of that. When you want to sew it, you just leave out about 10 inches for your zipper. Then you start from here and sew to the tail. So that's just what I've done here. Now let's continue the sewing of the other parts. today's video. I hope it was interesting and helpful. Kindly subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. Ensure to turn on all notifications and share this video with your friends. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.